This is the second entry in a 3-part series on how to get better at Smash. If you somehow ended up here without seeing the first video, you can find a link in the description. This second set of 7 tips is a bit more complex and a bit more abstract than the first. Those first few were more about mechanics most people just tend to forget about, while this bunch is going to be more about stratagems that will help you hold on to advantageous positions. If you can successfully weave these bits of tech into your playstyle, then you should be able to excel in the neutral game and keep your opponents on their toes. Number 8. Unlocking your character's mobility. If you want to hit your opponent, the first thing you gotta realize is that you're going to have to put yourself in a position where you're going to be able to do that. It sounds stupid when I say it like that, but a common mistake people make with fighting games is thinking about how to get damage when they should be thinking about how to get to damage. That's an important distinction. Once you're past the mind games, getting in and getting out is basically the entire fight. One of the best things you can do in a game with long recovery times is tricking your opponent into throwing out a move early. By making them think you're close and then retreating at the last moment, you can get them into a vulnerable place. To actually give you any specific advice, I'd need to go over every single dude, since mobility makes the playstyle, but I know a few universal techniques that should work for just about everyone. If you want to throw out a neutral special or an up tilt out of a sprint, you can use a jump cancel to speed up the process. All you have to do is press jump, but input your desired move before your character's feet leave the ground. Similarly, if you want a quick way to juke your way in towards your opponent, you can use a B reversal to instantaneously flip your momentum. To do that, jump, perform your neutral special, and then immediately press backwards. Number 9. Turning off tap to jump. Look, I get it, it's really difficult to drop up to jump if that's what you're used to, but it's important. It makes your movement and attack placement significantly more accurate if you have more control on the stick. It's difficult to adjust to, sure, but once you retrain your muscle memory, you're just better at the game. I realize if you're watching this, then you want to improve, and asking you to change your controls will temporarily make you significantly worse. But it's a mathematical advantage. It literally only takes time to improve. You don't have to learn anything, you'll just get better once you're used to it. If you don't like the X or Y buttons, you can just set jump to L, and if you don't like it there, you can set it to Z and use R and A to grab. Number 10. Gaining a frame advantage. Alright, now that we're mobile, let's figure out a way to set our rhythm by gaining a frame advantage. That means we want to find a moment where our opponent has less options than us, since we'll be able to act first. Since we're in the neutral game, this will usually come in the form of a successful block, spacing tool, or just a fumble on your opponent's part. Again, it's heavily dependent on matchups and playstyles, but since these games have a pretty universal rhythm to them, you basically need to bait out one good read, and then punish with whatever you've got. Number 11. Optimizing your hits. Once you've gotten a hit, your next goal is to either chain in another one or finish your opponent off. The first thing you'll want to look for is a true combo, where your opponent has no way to get back to an idle position before your next attack lands. Learn a couple and then figure out where you can tie them back into your punishes from earlier. Some characters obviously have more combo potential than others, but no matter who you play, eventually you'll end up in a position where the opponent's going to slip out. If you can't finish a combo off with a kill, then maybe you'd be better off just letting your opponent recover in a spot where you've still got that frame advantage from earlier. That's where resets come in, which are basically just ending a combo off with a mix-up. It's pretty similar to baiting out our opponent like we did earlier. You try to make one attack seem desirable, only to pull back and punish at the last second. Number 12. Edge guarding. Even stronger than a frame advantage is the stage advantage, since our opponent becomes significantly more readable. If we can hold on to this advantage, we're guaranteed extra damage, and we can maybe even sneak in a kill. Even if your character doesn't have that much obvious air power, you're at an advantage because they have less options than you. Charge up some special move, kite them with a projectile, go for a trade. The moment they do something with a recovery, they're committed to it, and you're able to punish. If you can't stop them from grabbing a ledge, you still have more opportunities than they do. They'll have to use one of their options to get up off the ledge, and that's when you can punish. They've got less stage and less tools to work with, so through a few reads you can turn those resources into more frame advantages, which turns into more opportunities, which will advance your lead even more. Of course, if your opponent is in a bad enough situation, you can just bop them right there with a meteor smash or something, but sometimes it's best to just cash out the easy damage and sneak in maybe another little reset. Number 13. Keeping a defensive mindset. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking their goal is to KO their opponent before they get KO'd themselves, but that's actually kind of a loser's strategy since you're planning on taking hits. A better mindset would be to play in a way that maintains your advantage at all times, rather than always going for every single dunk that comes your way. Play to win, but also play not to lose. It sounds stupid when I say it like that, but for real. Play in a way that focuses on preserving yourself instead of destroying your enemy. Try and play the game like you can't afford to screw up. I realize that's a little abstract, but from that perspective you play significantly more efficiently. Number 14. Identify patterns and adapt. The best way to improve at anything is to practice, but it's also important to realize that Smash isn't an RPG. You don't get any experience by just beating a bunch of weak enemies over and over. To get better, you'll have to learn from your mistakes. When you get hit, you should think about what went wrong and how you'll prevent it next time that situation comes up. Look for tells in your opponent's playstyle, and in addition to that, look for tells in your own playstyle and mix them up. The best tip I can give you to improve at Smash is to watch your own matches. Watch how you play and watch how your opponent plays. Figure out why your opponent's punches hit and adapt to make sure that they can't land that same attack again. Back when I played Little Mac, I noticed I had this bad habit of always baiting out a respawning opponent with a counter to stall out their iframes. Since I used to do it every time though, I was just setting myself up to get red on the third stock, so now I've learned to mix it up with a couple feints and whatnot. That little pinch of knowledge will bump up your neutral game significantly, and from there you'll be able to go on the offensive more often. That'll do it for the mechanical tips on offense, defense, and the neutral game, but in the next video we'll be talking about making some of the most difficult adjustments of all, improving your human communication skills, the most deadly of all video games. I hope you'll join me there.